Are there any similarities between the rule of crime writing and working in law?
Oh, that's quite a tough question. Yes, I definitely think there are similarities. As a lawyer, you need to have great attention to detail, you need an analytical mind, you need to know your client's business well in order to be able to advise them effectively, and you also need quite a creative, rational approach to advising them, because the bigger the problem is, the more creative you may have to be in solving the problem. And also you need to have done your research to know your client's business well. And similarly with crime writing, you need to take a similar methodical approach, more than any other genre probably, because for example with something like police procedure, you need to have done your research. You can't afford to cut corners or bend the truth to suit your own needs, because readers will pick up on that. Just like in law, you need that accuracy. And also, you know, with crime writing, you need to be able to map out the plot, similar to being a lawyer, the way you set out your case strategy. You know, there's a step-by-step approach.
Well, of course, in crime writing, you don't want the reader guessing
Absolutely.
who've done it.
Absolutely, you want to, I mean, again, similar to being a lawyer, you set out your case strategy, but you don't want the other side knowing what your game plan is, because you want to surprise them. And that's very similar to crime writing in the sense that, you know, you want to put in the twists and turns, the red herrings. You don't want them to guess the culprit too early. You know, you want them to be on their toes right to the end, similar to being a lawyer in a case, particularly in something like litigation, which is what I worked on, which was, you know, you follow the rules, you follow the procedure. So yes, crime writing does require quite a methodical approach.
Well, I do think it's very important, you know, and particularly in your book, that you have paid such attention to detail, and it really carries the story along. So I think, you know, it is as you say, a methodical and scientific process, really.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Which of the characters in the book was the most challenging to write?
There are a few challenging characters, but I would say DCI Carver, Jake Carver, who's the leading investigator on the case, he was definitely challenging to write. Not only is he a man, and I had to get into the skin and the psyche of a man, which is obviously a challenge, but also I didn't want him to come across as your typical flat, one-dimensional police officer. I mean, he starts off and we see the sort of tough, pragmatic, tough-talking side of him. And he comes across as a bit curt, and he rubs people up the wrong way sometimes. But you know, as the story develops, I try to show the more sensitive side of him. He's divorced, he's got a son, and he's conflicted between spending time with his son and obviously the job. He takes Detective Constable Drake, who's his assistant on the case, under his wing. And Drake's a bit intimidated him from the beginning, but gradually Carver warms to him, and you see this soft, sensitive side that comes out. And you know, he's not perfect, but no one's perfect, and I hope that's what makes him believable.
Yeah.
Also with his relationship with Maddie as well, you see how he, you know, there's a softer side to him, which I hope comes out.
Oh, it does. I mean, I think he's very real and very likeable.
Yes.
When the note, you know, the way it progresses through the novel,
Yeah.
that he comes across as harsh to start off with.
He does, yes.
And then, you know, but then he becomes
and he's
like
got
a human being.
he has a sense of humour as well,
Yeah.
which I hope readers
Which is quite
appreciate.
a difficult thing to do when you're dealing with a murder, but there you
You probably need a bit of humour, don't you?
Do you have any unusual writing habits? What is an average writing day like for you?
Probably not unusual, but I am again quite prescriptive in the way I work. I'm probably a bit obsessive in that sense. So if I'm working on a novel and I've got an idea and the ideas are flowing, first thing I'll drop my boys off to school. Then I'll probably go and work out for about 45 minutes to an hour. I do some form of exercise, because that sort of always gets my mind in gear. I mean, I played competitive tennis for about 13 years, so exercise has always played a big role in my life, and it gets my head in gear. And then I'll go home and probably write for about 4 to 5 hours. I'm quite good at avoiding the biscuit tin and making too many coffees. I'll just get locked into the story, and I have a study upstairs, and I'm not one of these people that can have the radio on or the TV. I like complete silence, apart from the birds outside.
Yeah.
And I'll just write for 4 or 5 hours, and I'm quite a quick writer as well. It normally takes me about 4 to 6 months to write the book, but then the editing process takes a lot longer. And if I am editing, obviously things will change. I will work all sorts of crazy hours to get the deadline done, but definitely more of a day than a night person in that respect. And I won't. I have a general idea of of the story and how it's going to map out, but the end isn't always the same as how I'd thought of to begin with.
Gosh.
Because ideas will come to me, and that's a great feeling when that happens, especially in crime writing, when you find that better twist or that better idea. It's exciting.
Yes, and it contributes to the intrigue.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
And do you ever hit a roadblock?
I have had a few of those, definitely, and they're really frustrating because it's really annoying when you've had this flow and then suddenly you just get that, cliched writer's block. And if that's the case, I'll go off and do something else and pray that the ideas come back, and they usually do. So I think it happens to all writers, even the best of them, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And which authors do you find inspiring for your crime writing?
So many, but I think, even before I became a lawyer, I was a massive fan of John Grisham. I'd take his books on holiday with me, and I love the way he tells a story, the page-turning nature of it. Sort of these great plots that just draw you along and make you keep turning the pages. Then, especially American writers, I love that American fast-moving style.
Yeah.
People like Michael Connolly, James Patterson. It's not always the prettiest writing, it's not the most literary, but it really draws you in, and they're the type of books you get to the end and you wish it was carrying on. You're really sad it's over because it's such a a fast, intriguing read. But recently I really enjoy Steve Kavanagh's books as well. He's an Irish writer, but he writes about an ex-con, Eddie Flynn, who becomes a lawyer, and he writes very much in the American style as well, and I enjoy his books.
Fantastic. And what about psychological thrillers?
I'm a massive fan of those as well. I've written a couple myself, and I'd say writers like Shari Lapina, who else? Paula Hawkins, Gillian Flynn, all of those novels. I love the sort of dark side to them, the way they explore the darker side of human nature, and often have really tragic consequences.
Absolutely.
But they're a really engaging read.
Well, my goodness. And I think finally, could you pick 3 words which best describe the atmosphere of the Scribe?
Wow. I would say dark, definitely creepy, and seductive.
Marvellous. Well, we can't wait for the book to be published. Thank you so much.
No,
and lovely to see you.
Thank you, Annette. Thank
Good
you so
luck.
much. Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye.